Hello and welcome to the TMC Newsroom. My name is Rich Tarani. Thanks for watching. On our program today is Paul Gubbay. He's the VP of Design, Web, and Interactive at Adobe Systems. Paul, welcome to the program. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So I was hoping we could start off by discussing your recent news. It's very exciting in the HTML5 space. What's happening?
Yeah, so this week we released a public preview of a new product called Edge, which is an animation tool that's sort of been built from the ground up specifically to build Flash-like animations, but all leveraging HTML, JavaScript, and CSS web standards. And it's one of a series of things we've been doing over the last year and a half to really embrace HTML5. I'd say it's one of the biggest things that we've done because it's a whole product. But it's early stages, public preview. We'll be working with the community as we continue building it out through the V1. But it's been very exciting. It's had a great response. We had over 50,000 downloads the first day, which I think was a little more than we were expecting even ourselves. And,
That's great.
Yeah, just a lot of excitement around it because I think people are really looking for a tool like this in the market.
So the goal here is to help designers more quickly and rapidly, efficiently produce HTML5 pages and sites?
Yeah, so we have a number of focuses around HTML5 in general, depending on the type of customer you're talking about and the type of things they're doing. Edge is very specifically around building richer interactivity, animation, the types of things you might see ranging from ads or interactive add-ons to websites or even, car configurators, all of those kind of richer sort of more interactive pieces that you would see that delivered through the browser, and many of which have traditionally been delivered through Flash. But, now that HTML is finally really sort of improving and innovating on itself and the browsers are supporting a lot more of this, there's a great opportunity to do this directly natively with HTML and JavaScript and CSS. And so we've been hearing from a number of our customers that they're interested in that as well, and that's sort of the beginning stages of why we decided to put Edge together.
So do you see an evolution of Flash projects eventually all going to HTML5, or is there room for both in the next, let's look out at 5 years. What's going to happen to these two different products/standards?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, I'll give a couple caveats first of all. One is just that, one of the things I've seen from especially the last couple of years and meeting with a lot of customers in this space is that we definitely do not get to dictate to customers which technology they're going to use. They're going to pick what they want to use for a number of reasons, including capabilities, including reach, including things they've already done in their ecosystem to support a particular technology. So what we really try to do is think about where do we see things in a few years and how do we optimize technologies for the things we think people are going to be doing, and especially as they gain more adoption. And of course, being Adobe, we've also got a history and quite interested in building technologies that work across platform. So the two areas we really see for that are Flash and HTML5 as we move forward into the future. I think Flash, so both technologies have obviously lived together for a long time. Flash has always sort of been the blueprint for where HTML should be going over time. They've always, it's always had the edge in terms of the richer and the deeper functionality that you can create. And I think that will continue to happen. I think what we'll start seeing, though, and what we're optimizing for particularly, is around where Flash can be used more and more for applications. When you think about gaming applications and rich media applications and data-driven applications, all have such a high bar when it comes to that rich interactivity and that functionality that you expect. I think Flash is great for that, and I think when we leverage things like Air, you can actually compile a Flash Air application down to onto the iOS platform so you can still have reach, still build it, and have it run everywhere. But in the browser, there's no question that HTML5 is incredibly compelling and interesting. It's definitely not there yet. You've got different aspects of it available in different places, and there's a lot of because mobile is where it's used a lot. There's a lot of incompatibilities, so it makes it tough to build for those things.
Right.
So that's where tools like Edge fill a need, and I think we'll see more frameworks like Jquery Mobile, which we contribute to. We'll see WebKit changes. We'll see a lot of things that over the next few years are going to really make it some really interesting content to be able to create it through the browser, and we want to be part of that.
So really, it sounds like HTML5 could turn out to be an opportunity, a big opportunity, depending on how well the developer community takes to the tools, the new tools that you've come out with, right?
Absolutely. Our strength is, we work with designers and developers, but obviously Adobe's strength has been around the design community for many, many years. And designers are such a key part of building that beautiful content that we all want to see, right? And one of the things that's happened with HTML5, which has been interesting, is you've seen some companies actually, as they adopt HTML5, lower the bar in terms of that rich, beautiful content because you can't still do all the things in HTML5 that you can do in Flash. And part of the reason there is because it's only developers that can really build that content today because it's all JavaScript and it's sort of, leading cutting-edge technologies. We need tools that allow designers and interactive designers to be able to play in the game as well. And that's really why Edge was created. It was to let interactive designers that really know what it means, they build a career out of building motion and animation and interactivity, really allow them to get back into the game again as well when it comes to HTML5. And I think it's a great opportunity. It's going to be very exciting for everybody out there, as well as companies like us who can build the tools and the frameworks to help people be successful.
Now, do you have any insights on the future of video? Because we are very familiar with sites that have Flash-based video. They're not necessarily standardized. There's a ton of different players out there. And then you've got competitors like QuickTime, H.264 videos, and if you've got an iOS device, you need to have multiple versions, and depending on the types of codecs you may have in an end-user device, you've got other issues. I'm curious to know in the future, do you have any thoughts on what is going to happen to video on the web?
Yeah, video is a really tricky one because there's a lot of things, as you sort of mentioned there, in terms of when you leverage HTML5 for video. Depending on what type of video you're creating, you're going to run into some interesting challenges to work through. Not just the codecs, but also, if you're going to be using, if it's content that you want to protect, how do you do that? How do you make sure you're going to have a consistent experience across different devices? From an Adobe perspective, Flash is certainly used for video so many different places today. Where we optimize for and where we focus is particularly around premium video. So what we see is a huge movement towards companies that are creating premium video today, wanting to be able to do that through any IP-connected device, and really thinking about how do you create that beautiful HBO Go experience, that Netflix experience for any type of video that you want to be premium. And we've been spending a lot of time focusing on that. It's hard to say in the future how fast HTML5 in general will be able to give people the same level of control that they're expecting around video that they would get with something like Flash. I can tell you that at Adobe, we're actively looking at that space and thinking about that as well and thinking about different things that we're able to do there also. And even in the case of Edge, which doesn't support video today, it's very much on the roadmap over time to see how video will fit in there and what we'll be able to do.
And it seems that carriers as well are looking to video, mobile carriers especially, they're looking to video as a potential way to generate revenue from their users, and there may be an opportunity for lots of companies to kind of insert themselves in helping carriers find ways to differentiate their video services in a manner that is consistent with what users will pay for. For example, in Asia, there are applications that allow multi-party poker playing and things like that on mobile devices. And so I'm wondering if maybe all of that will gel together, and there's got to be opportunities for all sorts of companies to just get into that ecosystem and just assist with, I guess, turning traditional video into a more premium video.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. We probably read a lot of the same articles. I think from the carrier's perspective, what I'm seeing in this trend and what a lot of people are writing about is the fact that they're now looking at data in general and thinking, man, there's a lot of money to be made here by the huge amounts of data that people want to consume on a mobile front. And so video is probably one of the most intensive things you can possibly do. So I think that's interesting. But then, the quality, the expectations of what people have today, there's nothing quite the same as when you watch television. Television is the most premium experience that you get. You turn it on, it's there, it's available, there's ads, there's a whole bunch of things there. And now that you have all these IP connected devices and all these mobile devices, there's just this incredible opportunity to bring that everywhere. And then all these new sorts of things we're going to see as a result of that. You know, even when you look at the ads on the internet today, how many of them are now becoming video ads? And and you know, how much is our things going to look more and more like games and incorporate more and more video over time? This is a natural way to be able to communicate back and forth. So I agree. I think there's tons of opportunity there. And we at Adobe, we have specific groups just focused on that in general. And of course, we've done a lot of work with premium video today, and we've worked with a lot of, you know, we've done it, Adobe Pass and a number of other things that are quite have become quite popular and used there. I think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of opportunity there.
And mobility is going to be a huge part, right? We just talked about mobile carriers, but it just seems that even if you take the mobile carriers out of the equation, tablet users and mobile users on Wi-Fi networks are going to make up a significant part of your user base, I imagine.
That's right. And so for companies like Adobe and any other company out there, I think, that's focusing on tools, you know, that's why multi-screen is such a key part of our initiative in any of our tools. So if you look at some of the things we've been doing around HTML5 in general, of which Edge is one of them, we started, you know, over a year ago, starting to contribute very heavily to Jquery Mobile. So we're one of the top contributors there because we see the ability to be able to build these mobile apps and be thinking about mobile first. You're going to need frameworks like Jquery. So we started building that, and then we tied in features into Dreamweaver to take advantage of that. We tied in features to take advantage of PhoneGap, which is the way to wrap a web app into something that's a native app that you can put into an app store. And I think that just across the board in general, you'll see tools vendors like ourselves and others really focusing on different things you can do to be able to bring that mobile experience forward, because it's not going to be very long until the mobile crosses the desktop, and there's more people viewing and accessing content from mobile devices than desktop. And, you know, people will be thinking about mobile first when they build content, you know, and that's already starting to happen.
So for developers and designers and creators, web creators and media companies, content creators, gaming companies, what advice would you give them as we look into the future with so many standards and so many new product solutions and things on the market? Give them a roadmap for success in a market that's expanding, evolving into multiple devices and multiple technologies and tools. What should they be doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think there's a few just practical things I can say. I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't really say this is the way it's going to be. But I think a few practical things that we hear from our customers and that we do talk with them about quite a bit is one is make sure, you know, and everyone who's out there who's building for customers does this today anyway. They should be, you know. One, make sure you know who your target audience is and what it is that they're actually, where you think they're going to be consuming the content. Because it's great to take advantage of all this crazy new technology, but the reality is if it doesn't run where your customer actually wants to access it, well, you're out of luck.
Right.
You know, so if you're building something that's got to work on a mobile device and has to work on IE6, well, you know, there's a lot of work you're going to have to do there to be able to support that, and you need to know where the boundaries are. As a matter of fact, we just launched a new website called theexpressiveweb.com. That's www.theexpressiveweb.com. And it's a site devoted to HTML5 techniques that are all about expressivity, how you do beautiful things. And under each new feature of HTML5 there where we describe that, we also have a section that tells you how many browsers actually support that feature. And I think, you know, and there's other sites out there that do that today as well. I think you're going to have to pay close attention to what's actually supported. That's number one. I think, you know, number two is that what you're going to have to look at for a while right now is you have to realize that, you know, it used to be in the web world that cross-browser compatibility is always the number one issue that we hear about. And it used to be for desktops. It was just, you know, could I build something that would work in Internet Explorer and work in Firefox and work in Safari? That's multiplied because now you have devices and they have different screen sizes and they have different performance requirements and they hardware accelerate different technologies. So it becomes much, much harder. So it's going to take quite a while for that to really stabilize. So in the interim, what people will use is frameworks. They'll use JavaScript frameworks that allow you to build it in one way, and then the JavaScript will take care of writing it out specifically for different platforms to make sure that it works. Jquery Mobile is an example. Edge does the same thing. Edge writes out to a special format, and then we write out the best code depending on the platforms you're working on. We try to write optimized code for those platforms. So I think finding a good framework that you can work with that's going to help alleviate some of those cross-browser, cross-device issues that you're dealing with is going to be important as well. And then, this is a little self-serving, but whether it's Adobe or whether it's somebody else, I think, trying to stick with a vendor who has that front of mind, is always thinking about the reach that you need to have as well as the capabilities that you need to have, and is investing at the runtime with WebKit and the frameworks and the tools to make it possible to you. I think that's going to be important. Whichever vendor you pick for doing those types of things, I think you're going to see more services, more tools, and other things, at least from Adobe, that are going to make it more frictionless to publish. Because I think that's what a lot of these companies are doing. It's what can I create? How easy can I publish it? Is it a magazine? Is it a game? Is it an app? Is it a website? How frictionless is it for me to be able to publish it to all those devices I want to reach? And that's really where we're taking a focus and trying to make sure people will be successful in the future. I think it's what people have to be thinking about today.
And speaking of which, it's been approximately 8 months about 8 months that I've started to see mobile devices, mobile phones that are running Flash, and the BlackBerry Playbook is a great example of a tablet that I've used fairly extensively, and it runs Flash amazingly well. So, congratulations! Are you working with the tablet vendors to enable them to get Flash on their platforms?
We absolutely do, and I would say for quite a while it was an enormous technical challenge to take something like Flash and bring it to mobile devices. Because of the type of things you can do with Flash. And then, of course, there was an expectation from people that any Flash content that's ever been built would work seamlessly out of the box, right? So you've got this lower performance device, you've got this mobile new version player of Flash, and, oops, let me kill that.
Sure.
And you've got all this old Flash content that was built for desktop machines with lots of memory and RAM, all this other type of stuff, and you browse to it and you expect it just to work beautifully, and of course it's just not reality. Just like you could point to tons of leading edge HTML5 content that was built for desktops that doesn't work on an iPad or a device either. There's a lot of that stuff out there because you have to optimize your content for the platform you're going for. So I think that the platform team has just done a fantastic job being able to do that. I think the RIM proves it's absolutely possible if the hardware vendor is interested, as well as the software vendors. You can work together and you can do incredible things, and you'll see more and more Flash on tablets. I mean, we're all seeing the commercials these days.
Sure.
Flash, so we're seeing more, and of course the content will get more performant, and as people are building content for mobile devices, it will be better as well. It's completely doable. It's just a matter of if the hardware vendors and of course the software vendors want to work together to make it possible on a platform. But it is now doable for sure.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for being on the program today, and it was great speaking with you.
Hey, I really enjoyed it. Thanks.